If your actions inspire others to dream more, learn more, do more, and become more, you are a leader. John Quincy Adams. Clarence Dickson was the first Black graduate of the City of Miami's Police Academy, and he rose to become Miami's first Black police chief in 1985.
I was born in a little town called Palatka, Florida. I was born in 1934. Thinking back when I was a kid and all the other kids around me, when the world began to unveil itself to me at 7, I remember there were at least every 3 to 4 months, the Ku Klux Klan in my hometown had a rally, a recruitment rally. First, there were signs throughout Palatka. I remember distinctly, "Be a man, join the Klan." Their kids who we played with every day, played stickball. We went swimming together in the St. John River, would sit on the curb and watch the Ku Klux Klan march by, and their kids would run out to them and say, hey daddy. So we knew who everybody was, we knew whose daddy was who and whose kids were who. And it really didn't have a great deal of significance. It really didn't, we thought it was a parade. I mean, we didn't get a full notion of what was going on. When all the kids came out after the parade, we would go swimming in the St. John River. White kids, black kids. We hid our trunks because it was not allowed. We had no business swimming in the St. John River. Our parents did not know anything about this. Our parents did not know that we gathered together and we mixed. We knew nothing about segregation. The kids, knew nothing about segregation. They didn't know why things were the way they were, and they didn't even think about it, why things are the way they were. And, neither one of them, the black kids or the white kids. My grandfather, who practically raised me, was my hero. My grandfather was had about 6 acres, and he was a sharecropper. And he worked from day to night. And when he worked as a sharecropper and get off from work, late in the afternoon, he would take that old mule and he would begin to plow and work his 6 acres. I would walk behind him as the old mule pulled the plow, and my granddad has a hand on the handle, because I loved my granddad. He was a big, strong guy, and I saw him lifting the heavy stuff and doing things that I really wanted to do to emulate him. Yes, he was a role model, and that's where I got my work habits from. I'm not a workaholic or anything like that, but I pride myself in outworking everybody that was that I had to work with, and I guess that's a carry on to my profession that I finally ended up as a police officer. I just outworked everybody.
Segregation. Racial segregation is the separation of different kinds of human racial groups in daily life. The segregation period in terms of public life lasted from roughly 1896 to 1954.
I mean, integration wasn't even talked about or thought about across anyone's lips. I remember there was a white school a few blocks away from the black school, and we would get a rationing of stuff from the white school after they had used the books and stuff like that. And finally one day we knew the books were used because they were writing in them, writing notes in them and everything else was in the books. But one day we did receive something from the white school in boxes, and they turned out to be typewriters. So we thought they were all, new typewriters. Hey, we got typewriters. We're gonna learn how to type and blah, 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 blah. And it turns out that they were old typewriters because the white school had gotten new typewriters, electric typewriters, and those were the old manual typewriters that we were getting. My career in college was street university. I didn't go to college until I joined the police department. I didn't go to college, I didn't finish high school, quit school in the 10th grade to help take care of my family. And it was one dead-end job after another.
Executive Order 9981, July 26, 1948. President Harry S. Truman. He abolished discrimination on the basis of race, color, religion, or national origin in the United States Armed Forces. The executive order eventually led to the end of segregation in the services.
So I thought about joining the military to get out of that rut that I was in, and meanwhile be able to send my mom some money back home. And that's what happened. I joined the military. I was a airborne radio operator, so anytime a plane had to go across water, they had to have me an airborne radio operator aboard. When I joined the Air Force, the one thing I have to say about the Air Force, about the military at that time, however, number one, it was not segregated. Number two, on the day that I was being discharged, the administrative officer called me in and say, Dickson, you want to take this GED before you get discharged? I say, what's the GED? He said, it's a general education diploma. If I hadn't taken the GED test, I wouldn't be a police officer because you needed a high school diploma to become a police officer. So I ended up in Miami at the Miami International Airport, which was part Air Force at that time. So now I'm discharged and I'm in Miami, so I stayed here in Miami.
In September of 1944, the Miami Police Department began hiring black police officers. In May of 1950, a police precinct was established at 480 Northwest 11th Street to provide a station house for black policemen and a courtroom for black judges in which to adjudicate black defendants.
I was at the bus stop early one morning, like around 4:30 or 5 o'clock, because bus number 21, I had to catch the bus, and in order to get to work on time, I had to get the first bus rolling, and that was a 21 bus. So I was waiting on that bus, and when I was sitting there, and then there was a police car that rolled up, kind of slowed up, and he went around the block, and I said, you know what? That guy's coming back, I bet. Still sitting in the car, he said, yo, what you doing? I said, I'm waiting on the bus. He said, yeah, but what are you doing, this time of morning? What are you doing out here? I said, I'm waiting on the bus. And I was being cute, and I knew it. I knew what he wanted. And he said, he got out of his car and said, okay, look, let's start all over again. He engaged himself in a conversation. He said, he was in parting, he said, a guy like you up this time of morning, trying to get to work and everything, he said, yeah, you make a good cop. Why don't you go out and take the test? That's what started. I found out later Miami was pretty advanced. Miami had about 50 or 60 black cops, and other cities had none back at that time. It was at least from 1944 to 1950 before blacks were allowed to go to that academy. But it was Chief Walter Headley who was chief when when blacks were brought on to attend the academy. When I went to the academy, it was Walter Headley who said, we want blacks to be able to go to the police academy, and we're going to start doing that on March 11th. I want the first blacks to be in the academy. I went down and took the test. I noticed when I went to take the test, however, that there was a partition in the auditorium-like place that we went to take the test, and the partition separated white applicants from black applicants. It was normal, as a matter of fact, because segregation and Jim Crow was rampant in Florida. When I finally did decide to go down to City Hall, apply for the job, I looked for a book that would help me to be able to take the civil service exam. There were no libraries in the city of Miami that blacks could attend. I could not go into a library and pull an ARCO book, it turned out to be. I could not do it, but they did have a little black library, we call it, that you could go in and, So I went into this library and I found a book, and it was the ARCO book of civil service exam. So that's the book I got to study. Anyway, I passed the civil service exam, and they said, after the physical, they sent me a letter and said, you will be starting in the academy. And there were actually there were 3 blacks in that class that started, and about 40 whites. When the class started, I noticed that by the 5th week, the blacks were gone, and so were some of the white guys gone. Most people didn't have an academy, by the way, but the city of Miami did, and they had a really good one. I found out. The city of Miami connected with Walter Headley, the chief of police at that time, connected up with the instructors came from the University of Miami, professors, and some police professionals came in, and they were people of stature in the community. College people were our instructors. It was a well-known academy throughout the country. Miami was. I personally was not prepared for sit-down classroom studying to pass this exam stuff. And in the academy, it's similar as it is today. There were some 66 tests or quizzes that you had to take throughout that period of time. And you could only flunk 3, and you were out. I did not know I was the first black, or that we 3 were the first blacks to enter the academy. I did not know that. No one knew it. Even my white classmates didn't know that, because it wasn't advertised. It was done in a quiet way, just put in there, and this was in 1960. Just put in the academy, and it wasn't advertised. Nobody was talking about what we just did. We just put 3 blacks in the academy. None of that. By the way, the other 2 had gotten kicked out by now. The other 2 blacks were gone. The instructor, one of the instructors told Dickson, "You're going with me." I got in the car with him, and he took me to a different place than where my white classmates went. It was there where he took me was right here at this precinct. When I got here, I first saw it, and I said, "Oh boy, this looks very interesting. This is going to be very exciting. This is an outpost. I'm going to be part of a special group. Look like, oh wow, It turns out when I walked inside the building here, I looked around, and I saw all black officers. There was 1 white supervisor. So roll call room is right downstairs here. So I went in there, stood around the roll call, and then the sergeant came in and said, "Okay, everybody at attention." I said the class, my whole class, no one knew that the first black was going through the academy with them. The instructors showed no prejudice at all. I think they were all professionals. I mean, I didn't experience anything that was suspiciously racist or anything like that in the academy. Very professional. Even though some of the police officers back at that time, and it's been documented over and over again, did belong to the Ku Klux Klan. Anyway, like I said, down here, just below me, roll call room, I entered. The sergeant said, "Okay, men, get ready for roll call." So everybody lined up down there for roll call. And he read the orders for the day, and the assignments went out. And he said, "Oh, by the way, this is Cadet Dickson. He's over at the academy. He'll be riding with one of y'all today. I'm going to assign him to ride with Big Nick." He said, and remember, this is the first one of us to go to that academy over there." And I said, "Did he say I was the first black over at the academy?" I said, and sure enough, after roll call, one of the black officers walked over to me and said, "How are they treating you over there, rookie?" I said, "Oh, they're treating me okay." He said, yeah, they're treating you okay, but look here, a lot of us got into a lot of trouble with the white guys over there by trying to get you into that academy. Don't let us down, because they say you ain't gonna make it." I said to myself, God, what the heck I gotten myself into here? I didn't bargain for all this. I didn't know this. All the people have depended on me, and I've already flunked two classes, and you can only flunk 3. And I said, wow, Jesus Christ, I didn't know this. And so after that experience, seeing what happened at roll call, and all the people that were dependent on me, and all the fights that the black officers had to get me into the academy, and here I was, the last one, because the other 2 had got dismissed. I said, that was a lot of responsibility on me, and all of a sudden, it wasn't about me anymore. It's about, completing this academy and making sure that I graduate. That was what it was about now. So I went back, buckled down, and actually graduated number 3 in my class. By that time, the class had whittled down to 13. There were 13 people who graduated in my class. After I graduated, I was told that you started in a class of 40 and ended up at 13. You know why? Because they were trying to wash you out, and ended up washing out a lot of the other people, along with it. The few Klan type people in the police department who did not want to see me graduate, but they ended up getting rid of, having to get rid of a lot of people by making it so hard. They made it really hard, and it wasn't easy at all. I graduated, and they took a class picture. And that picture, I'm standing there proud with the rest of my class, and we were just, young rookies just graduating. Bam, called us in, we took a class picture, boom, and I found out later they called my class back later when I wasn't there. I guess I was at the precinct, on the weekend or whatever, and took another picture of my class. And because of segregation, the department was not integrated. Blacks still were not welcome at the main station, they hung the picture on the wall without me, the one that I wasn't in, when they called the class back to take one separate. As each picture they hung on the wall, I'm not there. But that was because of the segregation. Not even a picture of a black police officer was allowed to be hung on the walls at that time. Now, they had no way of knowing that they were eliminating the first black police chief from the wall. Oh, by the way, the community wasn't aware that the first black police officer had gone through the academy, even though they had fought for that also. The black police officers were not the first ones to demand that a black be admitted to the academy. It was the community, the black citizens, who first demanded that, and it fell into the lap of the black police officers. The black police officers wasn't particular about the department being integrated. The black police officers were satisfied working out of the precinct here. They had no great desire to integrate into the main station. Now, the only reason that they wanted integration was to have equal promotions, equal opportunities, like to join the homicide unit or robbery or burglary or undercover detectives of vice or something like that. They wanted to have freedom of moving around in the department. The black officers, they did not realize how much they were being segregated against and how segregation was affecting them until they integrated into the main police headquarters.
The Miami Police Department integrated in September 1963, and black officers moved into the main police headquarters at 1145 Northwest 11th Street to work together with white police officers. The black precinct was then abandoned for nearly 60 years. It became a historic museum in September 2009.
Then the department, in further integrating, wanted to put 2 black officers downtown on Flagler Street on foot. Now, downtown Flagler Street on foot, no one had ever seen a black police officer before, because blacks could only work in the black community. We could only arrest blacks. By the time I came out of the academy, that was all eliminated. Blacks could arrest whites, but right up until the time I graduated, they couldn't. So I think that my graduation was an evolvement of changing times that was right around the corner, about to happen. I think the department was working on that. They transferred 2 blacks from the precinct here downtown, where you only worked with whites. There was no one else to arrest but white people, because that was all downtown. There were no blacks in stores. There was no blacks still couldn't try on a dress or a hat or whatever in bird irons in the big stores. They still had that segregated policy, but they sent us downtown. Robert Ingram and myself were the first 2 blacks to work downtown. When they found out that 2 blacks were going to go downtown to patrol the downtown area, that was the talk of the town for about 2 weeks. One white police officer quit the force because he was assigned downtown, and he thought that blacks should not replace whites downtown, so he quit the force. Just thought that blacks had no business down there working with whites and arresting whites and that sort of thing. He didn't approve of that, so he quit the department and told the papers why. I quit because those 2 Negroes in his quoting him, are not qualified to work downtown. So he quit. The other white officers, they welcomed us down there. That's why we, were able to get along the way we did. They were about as good a cops that you would find because they weren't that way. They didn't. They told me when I went down, said, Dickson, you know that guy who quit the force? I said, yeah, I saw about him in the paper. He said, well, you know what? Screw that guy. That guy was going to quit the force anyway. Robert Ingram left there and went to the elite motor squad, which no person, no black would ever be on the motor squad. But Robert wanted to go to motors. When I was downtown, I'll bet you I did as much police work as I did the whole time I was at the precinct. I arrested a bank robbery in progress, and what my first instinct was, he's probably going to catch the bus, but he wasn't. He was running away from the bank he just robbed. I arrested a guy, but this guy had killed a priest and a police officer in New York City. And I was working downtown in traffic, and when you work in traffic, you're assigned to one corner, so everybody know how to find you. They know where you're gonna be, because that's your corner and you gotta be there. You gotta direct traffic and look sharp, and you stand tall and that kind of stuff. That's where I met my wife. She worked for the telephone company. Telephone company was pretty advanced. The black girls, females, could get a job there. If they were highly competent, they could get a job.
So when I went up to him and asked him about another friend of ours who was Robert Ingram, and asked him where was Ingram stationed, because I would go by and talk to him on my lunch hour. He was a friend of my family's. And Clarence told me that he wasn't there. He said, but I'm here. You can talk to me. And I said, never mind. So he said, well, anyway, give me your number. I'm going to come take you to a movie. And I was like, boy, he really is crazy. I don't even know him. He's asking me for my number, and he's going to take me out.
That was love at first sight. Even though being on duty, and I was a strict, I believe in police policy and all that kind of stuff. I was a wacko for doing things the right way. So I couldn't talk to her while I was standing out there on the corner doing police work. Watching traffic, blowing my whistle and too much. I couldn't do that. I couldn't talk to a girl while I'm out there doing police work. Other guys did it. It was okay, but me, I'm, whatever, all screwed up in that way.
And he did call, and from there, we did start going out. And I guess it took us approximately a year before we were married. And let me tell you, after we were married, we had our first child, Tracy, and a year and a half, we had our second child, Raquel.
And that was the beginning of our almost 50 years of marriage. Overtown, during that time, when Gwen and I, my wife and I, were in our young, days, people who came to Miami Beach, black entertainers who came to Miami Beach, did their entertaining. They could not live on the beach. The beach was segregated. They could not live on the beach. They couldn't live in the hotels. They couldn't swim in the pools. They couldn't sit in the lounges. They couldn't drink at the bar. So what they did was, when they finished with their routines on the beach, they'd come over to Overtown. So Overtown constantly had stars as big as the moon coming over there into their little clubs. And the stars would come over there and let their hair down. And they would clown around like the people on the beach would never see. They come over there in their street clothes, and they would get up on stage, they would sing and clown and show all their talent of what got them there that the beach would never see.
After graduation, during Easter break, we went to Virginia Key Beach because that was the black beach, and that's where we went. And we weren't even concerned about the rest of the beach. You know, if you live and grow up in a certain environment, you don't really go outside of it, and you know where you are.
May 1976. Miami Police Headquarters, also known as the Central Station, opened at 400 Northwest 2nd Avenue.
"10 years before I decided I wanted to begin to compete to be a sergeant and leave the pool of police officers to begin to get some rank. Now, this part of my career that I really don't like to talk about. But I couldn't get any of the black officers to study with me. So I went out on my own and began to study on my own. I'd gone back to school, pursuing my degree. In 10 years, when I took the sergeant's exam, I passed the sergeant's exam. And then I went on to the lieutenant's exam. When the scores finally came back after a few months, I was the only black officer to pass the lieutenant's exam. Instead of celebrating, I felt bad about that. So there wasn't much celebration except about my wife and my kids and that. But it wasn't a good day for me because here I was again, the only black who was passed the exam. And I made lieutenant in 1975. In 1977, I became major because the black major had retired. So I became major, and that's a staff member. I'm now a staff member. That came about at the same time that after we had quit hiring police officers for 5 years, this happened. So we were way short on manpower. Hadn't hired in 5 years.
Clarence Dickson is the department's only black major. He went from sergeant to his current position in just 3 years. His personnel records reveal that the 43-year-old Dickson is highly rated. Currently, he's head of the traffic section.
In 1980, Miami riots following the acquittal of 4 Dade County Public Safety Department officers in the death of Arthur McDuffie.
So we were getting the brunt of everything that happened in every jurisdiction that occurs. This is the wrath of Miami. By being a Miami cop, this is what we're used to it, by the way. By the time it hit the national news, it's Miami. Everybody sees this as happening in Miami.
The Mario Boliff, I didn't see as bad as the McDuffie riot. Now that was frightening. That was very frightening. Well, number one, I think he was out the majority of the time. And when you're sitting home, watching it on TV, I think, So yes, I was very much aware. And I was like, oh my God, oh, now what? But you know what? All you can do is, I do go to church and I believe, and all you can do is sit home and pray. And that's what I did. And he always came back home safely.
That was the most devastating riot that this city or the county has ever had, the McDuffie riot. And of course, we didn't start that, but we had to deal with it. because once again, that was county cops. Unfortunately, if it had not happened in the city, it wouldn't matter. We would still have that the riot. If that had not happened in the city, that doesn't matter at all. It would have happened. They would have had the riot anyway.
The scars of the McDuffie riots are etched in many communities around Dade County. This is all that's left of a tomato processing plant in Perrine. Walker's Tomato Packers at 17500 Cleveland Street was leveled on Sunday. Today, all that remains of the company is a mass of twisted debris. In Richmond Heights, the 7-Eleven store at 14616 Lincoln Boulevard was looted. Other nearby businesses were also damaged. Over $12 million in insurance claims have already been processed, and industry spokesmen say the Miami riots may be the most costly ever in terms of building and property loss to a community.
But as a result of that, a lot of things happened that gave us a chance to, have a new start. And also it helped to bring in resources that we needed in the way of financial help from the government. We were able to develop programs that the government helped to pay for that would enhance the police and the community efforts. Some good came of that whole situation.
The Mariel boat lift was a mass immigration of Cubans who traveled from Cuba's Mariel Harbor to the United States between April 15th and October 31st, 1980. 125,000 Cuban refugees arrived in Florida.
With the Mariel boat lift, we were able to log in and keep record of everyone who entered the shores in the city of Miami. Under the expressway, we had our tent city. We knew where people were. We knew how to contact most of them, other Marielito, when it became a problem in the city of Miami. So all the departments around Dade County came to us when they wanted any information, because it overwhelmed the smaller departments. The city commission tried to make up for not hiring for 5 years by hiring and having the department to try to do the impossible by hiring 600 police officers in 1 year. And that can't be done. You know that. You can't do that. We can't put that many people through the academy, and 600 people in 1 year. You can't do it. By trying to do that, a lot of the recruits that we brought onto the police department, put in the academy, brought them through the police department, we couldn't keep up with the background investigations. And a lot of times, these people had been on the police department, made their probation, now they got civil service rights, and then the background finally was catching up with them. Background investigations were finally catching up with them, but they already made probation, civil service rights, but here they got a felony pass, and it's too late to do anything about it. They've been arrested. They belong to gangs, all sorts of things, But by the time the background caught up with them, too late. They're already in, the gate's been closed, you're out there now, so the only way you can deal with them is through the civil service system. And couldn't get rid of them. That's where the river cops came in.
Clarence Dickson made history once again when he was appointed the first black chief of police in 1985.
I wanted to be chief when I became a major, really. I said, you know what? I believe I know I can do a good job for the Miami Police Department. I have done everything that the other officers have done, including develop a hell of a lot of programs for the department. that has worked and made the department more successful. The city manager decided that based on the track records, and he looked at everybody's resume, and based on the track records of the individual applicants, that I was the best person for that job. Now, what he did was he also asked the Hispanic officers, the black officers, the FOP, and the PBA. They all said that I would be the one that department needed right now.
He's solid, he's low-key, which is something that we need at City Hall, and he's even been innovative in areas like the reverse sting operations throughout the city. So, you know, to change in midstream when we've got that kind of a track record and that kind of a solid individual is something we don't even like to contemplate, frankly.
The Miami Drug Wars was a series of wars between rival Colombian and Cuban gangs and law enforcement agencies in the streets of Miami. This occurred in the 1980s.
54-year-old Clarence Dickson is a man of first. In 1960, he became the first black officer to graduate from the Miami Police Academy. Marching his way up the ranks until reaching the top in 1985, Dickson was appointed Miami's first black police chief. In that job, he created a national first when he perfected the reverse drug sting during the crack cocaine era. The 28-year veteran was praised in the department as a cop's cop. Yet Clarence Dickson will be remembered not only for his ever-present cowboy hat, but for shepherding the Miami Police Department through the worst period of corruption in its history. Dickson inherited the River Cop scandal the same year he was appointed chief. During the next 3 years, more than 80 officers, or former officers, were suspended, arrested, convicted, or confessed to crimes.
For this right here, is you can't forget about, and we can't neglect, and we have to speak about the river cops, even though it hurts to talk about the river cops.
If I need to reorganize to bring about stability, credibility, and respect for the deserving men and women of this department, I will do just that.
Today, Chief Clarence Dickson announcing plans to set up a special task force. News on 7's Robert Gilmartin joins us from the police department live. Robert?
Well, Denise, as we first reported Wednesday night, Police Chief Clarence Dickson of the Miami Police Department will set up a special task force to deal with allegations of corruption in this department and also the use of drugs. This morning, Dickson announced the formation of that special task force, and it will be headed up by Assistant Police Chief Michael Mahoney, a 25-year veteran of the force. Assisting Mahoney will be 10 veteran detectives and high-ranking officers who will investigate these allegations. The task force will be called PRIDE, which stands for Professional Review and Investigative Detail.
PRIDE is being formed to give the citizens of Miami the absolute confidence that any corruption within the department is being dealt with. PRIDE is being staffed by 10 of the most outstanding and seasoned criminal investigators that we have.
Now, as of today, some 650 officers in the police department have taken the urinalysis test for drug use. The chief of the PRIDE task force says he thinks the rank and file will support the new unit and that the hotline will not become a rumor mill. By the way, the hotline will be in place tomorrow at noontime. And that hotline and the special task force will not be here in Miami Police headquarters. They're going to set up a special office outside of the building.
I'm thankful that I was able to be chosen to, and also that I was called up to the plate at a time of crisis for the Miami Police Department, and that I'm the one chosen to help my department during the time of need. I'm glad I was here. I'm glad I was available. I'm glad they picked me. Put it that way. One of the most important things in my life has been my desire, I believe this, desire and ability to help others. That's been the total motivation that I have that has kept me my motor running was to go out to help others, to be bold enough to ask, do you need help? I started the first program of separating the city to the places I named: Windward, the Coconut Grove area, all this conglomerate that I put together way back from working as a major in community relations and patrol and all this. I did this, the first crime watch, started in Miami. I did that as a sergeant working in community relations, wrote up the whole program. I could talk, all that. And the first crime prevention unit in the city of Miami, I'm the one who sat down and wrote that out. But because the department sent me to the crime prevention unit in Kentucky, I was able to come back and write our own. One of the first in the southeastern part of the United States, crime prevention unit. I changed the name from community relation, community interaction to crime prevention, which is much easier to understand and simplify. So the field force concept, I hope we still got it, but that's the way to deal with riots and disorder. Our field force concept was renowned throughout the country. It was initiated under my command. Was the most successful street drug program that was basically ever done until that was done. The Do the Right Thing program is a program that was taken from a program that existed that was put together under my administration. The automated fingerprint system came out of Miami, and it was completed under my administration. And everyone is using it now. The Glock that we carry, I fought for the Glock, for us to be able to carry it. Everybody else was saying that the county even said, chimed in and said, well, we don't need a gun like that that'll shoot 19 times or whatever. All you need is just your revolver. This is back in the old revolver days. We all had revolvers. In 6 seconds, any shooting is over. You don't need all that firepower. We do need it. We need the Glock. Now every department in the country is carrying the Glock. We fought for it. My people prepared me for it. They told me all the things I needed to say to the commission to get it, because the commission did not want us to have it. And my men and women prepared me to go down to the commission to be able to fight for this Glock intelligently. And we fought for it, and we won. And now everybody carried it. So, and now even the county who was talking about, we don't need that, you don't need all that firepower, no, they're carrying it too. And that's why I told the news media, I said, you wait. I said, you know what, in a year's time, they're going to be carrying the weapon that we carry. This, the picture of this car is up there because when I was chief of police, I redesigned the police cars for the city of Miami. Changed colors, changed insignia, put lines in it, and made it brighter and easier to see. And as a result of that, it's funny, as a result of that, people began to say, wow, we're getting more police coverage. I see a car, passing through seemed like every 30 minutes there's a car, a police car. Well, there really wasn't. There was a slight increase in police service, but it wasn't that significant. What was significant was that now the public began to pay attention to the cars because it was something new. It was lighter and brighter, and so that worked for us. And this is the first time that I've mentioned why and how that car got changed by me.
Good afternoon. Our top story this noon, the city of Miami is losing its police chief. Chief Clarence Dickson resigned less than an hour ago. The announcement coming at a news conference at City Hall. News Center 7's Patrick Fraser is there and has a live report for us. Patrick.
Peter, saying he has been frustrated by members of the city commission, but making it clear the decision to resign was his and his alone. After 29 years, Police Chief Clarence Dickson is stepping down from the Miami Police Department. Dickson walked into City Hall to applause from his supporters today. He took a few seconds to brag about his vast improvements in the Miami Police Department during his 3.5-year tenure. He applauded the staff he leaves behind and then laid the blame for his decision to step down on city commissioners. Commissioners, he said, who had beat up on him, and he was tired of it. Joining us now, Chief Dickson. Chief, you said that your decision was spontaneous. Was it, first of all, congratulations on 29 years. Don't let me leave that out. Secondly, was the decision spontaneous over one event, or were there a series of events?
A combination of events, however consistent, and some maybe not worth mentioning. Things being taken off the agenda that was important to the police department. I felt they were taken off just to aggravate the chief, but they hurt the police officers in the department. And but no, this was somewhat frustration. About 80% frustration with the members of the commission. For some reason, I don't think that the city commission really liked me. Not all of them, as a matter of fact. Rosario Kennedy is an outstanding supporter and a real lady. The mayor is a real gentleman. But I'm afraid that I can't go much further than that. Okay, take care, guys.
The goodbyes just won't end for the man called Chief. Tonight, Clarence Dickson met behind closed doors with now former associates, reminiscing about his 3.5 years as chief and 28 years on the force.
He's a little despondent right now because of people he's leaving behind, and he's concerned about those people.
But it was a much tougher Clarence Dickson announcing his retirement this morning, taking his bosses in City Hall to task.
Everyone in the country is giving us credit for what we're doing, and our own city fathers are trying to making us look like a bunch of Keystone cops and stumble bums, and I got tired of that.
I think there was a lot of affection for Chief Dickson.
Sergeant Bill Schwartz just hopes the next chief won't have to fight the same political battles.
A street-level police officer wants to feel that the chief of police is in charge, and that the city government is supportive of the chief of police. And we're hoping that this will be realized.
So does Assistant Chief Perry Anderson, who's taking over the top job.
Oh, well, traffic out here, too.
And now the man in the cowboy hat, the man synonymous with law and order in Miami, is walking away from police work, going out with his head held high.
All right, take care. No pain, no gain. We've had lots of gain, but we have had lots of pain.
Thank God for Clarence Dickson. Because of him, we have a better police department today, you and I and every citizen in Miami.
The community has changed because the police department has changed. I always said the community in us dealing with the community, we have to take the leadership because we are an organization. We have inside discipline as police officers. It is up to us to take the leadership and make the difference because we are organized. We are trained to handle situations on a more disciplined level than the general community is. If there's going to be any change to take place, the leadership have to come from the police side. The community basically is ready to cooperate, and I think that's why we're making such strides in law enforcement. Basically, in law enforcement, period. but especially in the city of Miami. But it took time to build that up, to build that and to have a consciousness about it, and to make that kind of a change. But yeah, the police force should make the initial positive changes that need to be done in this community for the community to be a better place. And I think that we're doing that. More people understand the police now than before, of what their responsibilities are and what the community responsibilities are. You want a better community, you want a better police department, then step up to the plate. I'm proud of the advancement that the Miami Police Department has made. They've made great strides, even beyond my imagination. I visited the Miami Police Department the other day, and as I walked in there and walked down the halls and looked at the progress that has been made, it is monumental. You know, I really couldn't believe it. The building, the facilities, the technology, and all those things that wasn't there when I was there. But I'm glad to say that I was in on the building the foundation for all these great things to happen by competent people that came in after me, following me. Now, Miami has a good record of selecting good leaders in the police department. That's one thing it's always had. Innovative people, very smart people who surround themselves with smart people and who are dedicated and who is up on doing the right thing. Back to the program, doing the right thing. Well, everybody has done the right thing, and I'm just proud of the fact that I was a part of that. Chief Galeno is really a unique person, and I say this. He gave me my first badge case, and you know what? This is it right here. I carry it around with me. I'm proud of it. Yeah, I was the first chief of police. I was the first chief of police, but no one ever gave me a badge case. See, and here's my picture. Here's everything. Everything's there. Never had that before. You can be whatever you want to be within reason. Not anything that's not pretty well thought out. But if you believe that you can accomplish something and you set out to do things that you believe will help you to accomplish it, and don't waver, it can be done. I'm happy to be a part of this legacy of the police department and all the people who worked for the Miami Police Department, who's working now for the Miami Police Department. That I was a part of that. They were a part of me, and I'm a part of them. So it's a wonderful career that I've had with the police department in the city of Miami.